Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
It began as the kind of morning that makes you forget the world can break. The sun hung soft over Wren Hill Court, glinting off the dew-streaked lawns. My coffee steamed beside me, the cat purred on the sill, and for a brief, fragile moment, peace felt permanent. Then it shattered. The first scream came like thunder, raw, cracking through the stillness so violently I nearly dropped my mug. At first, I thought it was the TV next door, but then another voice, deeper, restrained, angry, cut through the air, and I realized it wasn't a show, it was real. I rushed to the window. Across the street, Lydia Morrow stood on her porch barefoot, hair wild, wearing the same silk pajama pants I'd seen her take up the trash in. Her husband, Graham, was dragging a huge suitcase down the steps, his expression carved from stone. "Graham," she shouted, voice breaking, "you're just going to walk out? After everything?" He didn't answer. The suitcase thumped against the pavement. Her voice cracked again, trembling but fierce. "You'll regret this when she leaves you too." That word, she, hung in the air like a curse. Even from my window, I saw Graham stiffen, jaw tightening. Then without looking back, he opened his car door, threw the suitcase in, and slammed it shut. Lydia stepped forward, tears streaking her cheeks. "Say something. Please, just say something." He paused, one hand on the roof of the car. His voice, when it came, was quiet and devastating. "I already did. You just never listened." Then the engine roared, and he was gone, tires screeching, gravel spitting. Lydia stood frozen. The silence afterward was unbearable. I could hear a child crying somewhere down the street, a dog barking once, then nothing. She sank onto the porch steps, clutching her knees, sobbing into her arms. The kind of cry that sounds like someone's heart tearing open. I wanted to go to her. I didn't. I just stood there, watching, feeling something in me twist painfully tight. I'd always thought Lydia's life was perfect. Flowers on her windowsill, laughter at dinner parties, a husband who always opened her car door. But from that moment on, I understood. Perfection is the loudest disguise. And as I pulled the curtain shut, my hands still trembling, one thought echoed in my head. If this is how the morning begins, what on earth will the night bring? During the day, that uneasy quiet, a silver Lexus rolled in, smooth and deliberate, like the calm before another storm. Clara stepped out, Lydia's younger sister, the kind of woman who always looked like she just walked off a magazine cover. Perfect hair, sunglasses too large for sincerity, and a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. Lydia burst from the porch, barefoot and furious. "Of course you show up now." Clara didn't even flinch. "Someone had to check on him. You've been impossible lately." "Him?" Lydia's voice cracked. "You mean my husband?" Clara's smile vanished. "He needed someone who actually listens to him, Lydia. You shut everyone out." The air turned heavy, grief and rage blending into something raw. Lydia's hands trembled as tears carved through her smeared mascara. "You were supposed to be my sister, my sister." Clara's tone turned cold, almost rehearsed. "He told me you'd say that you'd twist it." The argument spiraled, a storm of betrayal and disbelief. Then Lydia shoved her, not hard, just enough to send Clara stumbling back against the car door. The thud echoed like a punctuation mark in their shared downfall. For a heartbeat, they just stared. Two women bound by blood but torn by something far stronger. Then Clara turned, got in the car, and drove away, leaving Lydia crumpled on the porch, sobbing into her shaking hands. From my window, I couldn't look away. I thought the worst was over. But as Lydia lifted her head, eyes hollow and distant, I realized it had only just begun. By late evening, the neighborhood had gone still, that uneasy stillness that follows an emotional storm. I sat by my upstairs window, the glow from Lydia's kitchen flickering faintly through her half-drawn blinds. The air felt heavy, as though the entire block was holding its breath. Then came the first sound, a sharp, metallic clink. Then another, and another. It took me a moment to realize what it was. Glass. Outside, under the dim porch light, Lydia stood barefoot beside her trash bin. One by one, she dropped empty wine bottles into it. Slow, deliberate movements, like punctuation marks in a sentence she couldn't finish. Her hair was tangled, her face blotched from crying, but there was a strange calm about her. "Of course you'd leave first," she murmured, not shouting now, but whispering to no one and everyone at once. "You always do." Her voice carried just enough for me to hear. My chest tightened. Then a crash broke the silence. She'd hurled one bottle instead of dropping it. Shards scattered across the driveway, glinting like fallen stars. Lydia didn't move. She just stared at them, her shoulders trembling. Finally, she sank to the curb and lit a cigarette. The ember flickered against the night, one fragile, defiant glow. For the first time since morning, she looked small, not angry, not strong, just lost. My cat jumped onto the windowsill, tail flicking, as if sensing my unease. We both watched her, a woman unraveling under the quiet weight of her own heartbreak. Then, almost too softly to hear, Lydia said, "It's not over, not yet." A chill crawled up my spine, because in that fragile whisper, there wasn't defeat. There was promise. By the time night fell completely, the silence felt unbearable. Every creak in the house sounded louder, every shadow longer. I couldn't stop thinking about Lydia sitting alone on that curb, cigarette trembling in her hand. So I did what my conscience wouldn't let me ignore. I packed a plate, pasta, a slice of steak, garlic bread, and a few brownies my husband had baked earlier. Nothing fancy, just something warm, something human. When I knocked, the door opened almost immediately. Lydia stood there, same pajamas, same hollow eyes, but her expression softened when she saw the food. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I wanted to," I said. "You shouldn't be alone tonight." Inside, the house was dim. A half-empty glass of wine sat on the counter. The air smelled of perfume and something faintly metallic like spilled coins. We sat at the kitchen table, and after a long silence, Lydia spoke, her voice calm, almost detached. "I caught him, you know. Not by spying, just accident. A message on his iPad. Her name, my sister's name." I stayed quiet. She stared into her wine. He admitted it. Said it just happened. She let out a dry laugh. Things don't just happen, not affairs. They're built, lie by lie, kiss by kiss. For a moment, her eyes filled, then cleared again, cold and precise. "But it's fine. He signed papers yesterday. Thought they were for refinancing." I frowned. What were they for? She tilted her head, a slow, unsettling smile forming. "Let's just say, he won't have much left to start his new life with." The room fell silent again. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows, like a whisper of warning. And in that silence, I realized Lydia wasn't broken. She was planning. For 2 days, the neighborhood stayed eerily quiet. No car in Lydia's driveway, no movement behind her curtains. Just silence, the kind that hums before something breaks. Then, on the third morning, a black sedan pulled up. Graham stepped out, shoulders slumped, suitcase in hand. He looked smaller, almost remorseful. He rang the bell once, twice. Lydia opened the door, calm, composed, dressed in a soft gray robe, her hair brushed and neat, as if the storm had never happened. "You came back," she said softly. "I made a mistake," he replied, voice trembling. "Clara's gone. She used me," lied. Lydia's smile was faint, almost tender. "I know." He blinked, confused. "You know?" She nodded. "I told her to." Before he could speak, she handed him a thick envelope. "You might want to read what you signed. Here is a copy of the documents. They weren't about the house. They were the divorce and the transfer of every joint asset into my name." Graham's face went white. Surprised, he grabbed his head, sat down on the ground near the car, and sat there motionless for an hour. Lydia stepped back inside, closing the door gently. Through the glass, I saw her exhale, not in sadness, but in release. And in that quiet, the truth settled like dust after an explosion. She hadn't just survived betrayal. She'd orchestrated justice.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.